How Russians have been trying to destroy Ukrainian culture, identity and church for many centuries. How they are doing it now by bombing places of historical and cultural memory. And what is most importantly, how we can help Ukrainians to minimize damage and protect citizens. Let's talk in this video. Well, beautiful people, have you knew that Russia were trying to destroy Ukrainian national identity since the 15th century? It was a part of internal Russian policy. And no, Ukrainians were not chosen for destructions, like Neo in Matrica, okay. But Russians did the same with all nations they conquered. Ukrainians just have an audacity to protect themselves. That's why the war with the Russians are going on 500 years already. Well guys, Russians are not belong to Slavic ethnic group on 100%. They are actually from Finno-Ugric tribes. They were living and earned resources due to the violence and robbery. Well, nothing changed since that time. You know, a lot of Western people who visited Ukraine before the full-scale invasion asked one single question. Why Ukrainians know so little about culture of their own country? I think the answer was not in the laziness of Ukrainians, but in professional work of NKVD or KGB, the secret Stalin police. I came from Dnipro. In my childhood and teenage years, I remember my city as completely Russified region, yet now I'm noticing positive dynamic. More and more Dnipro locals are speaking Ukrainian and learning history. Do you remember famous Ukrainian carol, Shedrik? It was played in Carnegie Hall, everyone there admired it, and American adaptation is Carol of the Bells, and Guardian put it into the list of most significant one. And it could be the triumph of the author Mykola Levantovich. However, on January 1921, he was killed by Soviet security agent. Because he was a threat to Soviet ideology. He was a keeper of Ukrainian identity and could transfer it not only to Ukrainians, but all over the world through his music. And people who were listening it recognizes Ukrainian culture. And if Ukrainian culture exists, well, surprise, surprise, Ukrainian nation is so Soviets killed and imprisoned all keepers of Ukrainian culture to enhance comment like this now. Guys, what about Russian carols initially? If you get Google in the internet, you will find a lot of carols of people of other world. For example, Scotland, Bulgarian, Slovakian, Poland and Ukrainian, however, not Russian initial Christmas carols. All that you will find will be either translated by Russians, either appropriate by Russians. And I would like you to listen Ukrainian national carols now. For example, these people who sing the carol together in costumes with decorations are called Ukrainian vertep. It was widely spread in villages as temporary created theatre, and performances were walking from house to sing about Jesus Christ's birthday. And such small verteps were enrolled in each church to illustrate the night of birth of the Savior. Of course, Christmas celebrations were banned in the Soviet times, and all church buildings were remastered to the Museum of Communism or Atheism. Curiously, guys, that Soviets has chased Ukrainian Union Church, Greek Catholic one, since 20th century, and current propaganda of Kremlin that speaks by the words of Ramaswamy or Elon Musk about multiple oppressions from the side of Zelensky of Moscow Orthodox Church now sounds hypocritical.
To stop the Ukraine government from banning the country's oldest and most widely supported Christian church.
Guys, let me hug your time a little bit more and tell you how Stalin created Moscow Orthodox Church in 1943 and why? The real attitude of Stalin to religions and church were negative, because he sent all priests of Orthodox Church in Ukraine and Russia to the north in concentration camps, physically destroyed the temples and church buildings, and actually announced religions out of law and illegal. Not because Stalin was so brutal, narcissistic or brutal atheistic person, yes he was, but he announced a curse on industrialization because he wanted to overcome United States. But where he can get the money in so poor country to build those plants and factories without foreign investments? Simply, he robs farmers and churches. Because church had a lot of golden icons, for example, or golden statues in the property and a lot of land. Situation in 1943 quickly went out of hand, because Hitler appeared to be a little bit smarter than Stalin and advanced deeply into the Soviet territory. So Stalin needs to unite people and made them to protect their homeland, and his ass over the way. He quickly understood that fate can unite people, especially Ukrainians, that were deeply committed to Christianity. So he decided to create his own church, but pretty controllable by the state. Another reason why Stalin did so, because he desperately needed second front to be opened from the side of Western allies, because he was risking to lose this war. However, Western society and allies was pretty humanistic and religious, and Stalin needed to prove that new Soviet society was pretty the same, that they are protected the common same values. He quickly gathered all loyal priests that were willing to collaborate, because it's national for people to collaborate in order to save their own lives, and told that now they are preaching only Soviet propaganda and each priest needs to be the member of the NKVD and secret Stalin police. Well, such communist church was pretty successful, and we see that communist leaders and Stalin were even on icons, and of course word of Jesus on such services was forgotten totally, and only imperialistic and Soviet narratives were pushing. And this church has been existing in Soviets for decades and pushed imperialistic propaganda, and Stalin used this church. And how do you think? Tell me in the comments below, guys. Was it reasonable from the side of Ukrainian president to ban such institution in sovereign Ukraine? I would like to mention, friends, that Russians keep trying to destroy our places of national identity and historical memory, attacking with missiles our schools, museums, educational buildings and institutions. That is why currently Ukraine needs more air defense system to protect civilian population. Russians are still keeping the hope to free civilians all over from Dnipro to Lviv. That is why it's important not to stop supplies of air defense missiles to Ukraine.
Hi, my name's Carrie. I'm from America and I'm here in Ukraine helping out. So we should continue supporting Ukraine with as much as we can, because they are a democracy that is being attacked by a terrorist state. And they are fighting hard and they can do this. They just need some more support. So please continue standing with Ukraine.
I know for sure that some of you are writing emails and letters to the congressmen and ask for increasing Ukrainian aid or air defense system. Please keep going, guys. This is extremely important. Please, guys, help us protect amazing architecture, historical heritage and beauty of Ukrainian culture, and what is most important, civilians, which lives are priceless. I recently found the article in New York Times that is saying that US could probably stop supplying air defense missiles for Patriot. I don't know if it's true or false, we'll pray for false information of course, but if so, situation in Ukraine with air attacks could be much worse, and we will come back to 2022 when civilians could not leave their shelters and were sleeping in the metro stations. Russians, as abusive neighbor, were trying to gaslight not only Ukrainians, but people all over the world that Ukrainian nation were uneducated, they were savage, they were stupid, and were just an outskirt of Great Moscow state. Russians identified Ukraine with the village. They even wanted to change state name from Ukraine to Ukraina. And in Russian, Ukraina, the word Ukraina means suburbs, outskirts. So, yes. And by the way, recently I was visiting Museum of Ukrainian House in the village. Let's check what I've seen. When I visited Museum of Ukrainian House in Stry, I found out that Ukrainian farmers had a property before collectivization, and they were selling harvest and meat and earn enough not to exist like a working class in Moscow, but to live and to have access to the culture. They were crafting national costumes, decorated houses in accordance to Ukrainian national traditions. You see such attributes as chess, printing machine, decorating and styling of the house, modern furniture that was not typical for the Soviet working class in the late 20s. But in the end of 1920s, all farmers were robbed and ripped off and forcibly deported. The property was taken and family icons, vyshyvankas and rushniki were destroyed. Families or farmers who signed agreements, of course under the oppression and threats, were put to collective communes to be a slave of Stalin regime. Guys, thank you for watching this video. I deeply appreciate your time and loyalty. Please put thumbs up and write any comments to this video to help the algorithms to show this video across the internet, so other people could also discover Ukraine for them. If you want to support me as a content creator, first, thank you, and second, you can proceed to description of this video and find my PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee page. Thank you and God be with you.